but yeah, so our first video or our first review is Kite Man, which is
Kite Man,
the
hell yeah.
Kite Man, hell yeah, yeah. Which DB has been threatening to have us watch for a couple of months now.
Yeah, and so I was kind of morbidly curious just because I watched a season of Harley Quinn. Um, then I uh, watched a few episodes of the second season, and around the time when Harley literally bit off the penguin's nose, I said, "Yeah, I know this show is kind of too much for me."
And I can understand why. After uh, watching oops, wrong one. Uh, there we go. Which one was the one I usually use? Is it that one? Yeah. Okay. There we go. All right.
See, I accidentally made the mistake of opening all of my IMDb links in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
So ignore me while I work. Daniel,
Okay.
tell him about Kite Man from the
Yeah.
perspective of somebody who never saw a single moment of Harley Quinn.
Right. Yeah. So I got about a minute and a half into the first episode, and I wanted to do harm to the people who wrote it, because I it was just like it was so painful. Like the jokes and the banter is just so bad. I was just like with the Legion of Doom, like you had Bane in there, wearing who's wearing a gimp mask. I don't know why he's wearing a gimp mask.
Because
Um,
funny, I guess.
yes, yeah, and he's talking about having something to reform broken chips at the bottom of the bag and make them
Right?
whole again.
Yeah, Lex Luthor is announcing, "Oh, we've got
The anti-life equation. Yeah.
right. We got the anti." Or yeah, he's like announcing, "We've got something to announce," and Bane's like, "Oh, is it a machine that takes the chips at the bottom of a bag and reconstitutes them into full chips again?"
Yeah, and Lex Luthor says, "Shut the f up."
Yes, as he rightly should.
Yeah,
Um, and so, having seen as much of Harley Quinn as I have, that's very in keeping for their version of Bane.
mhm.
I think that the whole writing process for this whole series is basically the writers and voice actors being very amused with themselves behind the scenes and just doing improv, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh, like they all think that they're all extremely hilarious, just extremely hilarious.
yeah, yeah. Part of me wonders how many illicit substances they were doing when they were coming up with this crap.
A fair question. I,
Yeah.
I so I think that the biggest sin of this is that okay, so Kite Man has been kind of on something of a renaissance question mark
Mhm.
since Tom King decided to throw him into his run on Batman from a few years back. Um, Basically, they take a Silver Age superhero. In fact, let me go ahead because when I was looking up that. Oh God. Okay, so uh, sorry, image search had an annoying thing where they had actually taken a classic comic panel and edited it in him in saying Kite Man, hell yeah. But like they basically took this character
Oh boy.
and like it's one of those silly concepts because as much as some people try to deny it, superheroes were largely for children or just
Hmm.
people who wanted some silly disposable entertainment back in the day.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and you can't think up the Riddler or the Joker every single month when you're cranking out new villains. So
yeah.
this probably happened on a month where they were phoning it in a bit, And in the Harley Quinn TV show, they just kind of presented him as like a very dependable, nice guy, beta male who, for some reason, had always dreamed about being a supervillain. But that's
Yeah.
neither here nor there. Um, and he was actually engaged to Poison Ivy for a bit, but that broke up. I guess because the toxic fandom on Twitter decided that no, Harley has to be the one to date Ivy. Get rid of him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that yeah, it can't be that Harley and Poison Ivy are just really good friends. No, they have to be doing it.
Yep, constantly.
Mm.
So where the idea of giving him his own TV show came from, it must have just been people misreading some trends, or possibly it was probably greenlit back when under different management over at Warner Brothers, who were saying, "Well, we need to just crank out a whole bunch of stuff for Max."
Mm.
Who's got pitches?
Yeah. Mm.
And actually, if I'm an executive looking at a spreadsheet, this would be very appealing because animation team's already in place, voice acting cast is mostly already in place,
Mm.
so like, it doesn't take a whole lot of work to produce this.
Yeah. Uh, Although I wonder if this got a season, if it's getting a season two or not.
Given the state of Warner Brothers, almost certainly, I would assume no, because I
Yeah.
this thing came out and the only person who mentioned it was my dad, and he's a big DC fan, so he tends to watch just about anything
Yeah.
that they put out just for
Yeah.
curiosity's sake.
Yeah, because Lance Reddick was the voice of Lex Luthor, and he sadly passed away last year.
Oh,
Yeah, so if it got renewed for another season, they would obviously have to get somebody else to play Lex Luthor.
yeah. Hopefully this thing is gone. So we watched the first episode, and
Mm.
so I'm going to be an objective reviewer here for a moment.
Okay.
If you have to this point greatly enjoyed the Harley Quinn cartoon, this is basically the Harley Quinn cartoon with a focus on Kite Man instead of Harley Quinn.
Yeah. Um,
Um, the sense of humor is the same. Like things that this finds funny, superheroes and supervillains talking about inane BS. Um, Kite Man being pathetic. Um, Extremely over the top gore and violence that would not be allowed to be on TV.
yeah. Yes. There's a scene where the Stephanie Brown Batgirl and impales the guy with a uh, with whatever those stands.
Yeah, like the stands that they use to hold up ropes at banks
Yeah.
while she's stopping Kite Man's robbery. Um,
Yeah. Ugh.
oh, Weirdly enough, Kite Man is given a girlfriend named Golden Glider, who, man, like she's just a short fused, ultra violent character who, for some reason, is just madly in love with him, and you really wonder why.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, their whole dynamic is very bizarre. Yeah.
But
I guess we should probably get to the a little bit of the plot, which was um
it's very much an excuse plot.
yeah.
Basically, Lex Luthor is trying to keep the and spoilers ahoy. So
Oh yeah.
Lex Luthor is trying to keep the anti-life equation to himself. So he sets up Kite Man to be the patsy because, like, oh, I'm going to lead all of the flying supervillains away so that Superman can just come in and seem to recover it. And oh, we need some sort of air cover, so I'll bring a Kite Man who I know will screw it up.
Yes, which which happens, and uh Kite Man gets pretty badly hurt, and then he's of course hanging out at Noonan's, which is I guess the bar for all of the lower tier supervillains. And And so Lex Luthor decides that he decides to buy the bar because Kite Man opens his yap about how, oh, this is
Right.
the best place in the world, and these are all my friends, and da da da
Right.
da.
You might have millions and millions of dollars, but you'll never have a real friend. Da, 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 da.
Yeah. And Lex looks at Noon and he's like, how much for the bar? It's not for sale. I'll give you $10 million. Sold.
Yeah. So what they have to do is they have to come up with $10 million suddenly, and they first ask Kite Man's wealthy dad for it before they decided to steal it from him. And
Yeah.
where I had some real issues with it was that it this is where the the writers of this series or the animators or whoever's in charge of putting out together the action scenes is like aroused by the idea of a female loudmouthed character just mowing through waves upon waves of guards in the most bloody over the top way possible.
Yeah. And well, yeah. And there's even the scene when she uses her powers, and
Right, even before she used her powers.
yeah, yeah. And I was gonna say, Kite Man's like, I am so aroused right now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, yeah, all right. We know where they're going. We get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
But
well,
a- and what I'll say is that they do get their 10 million. They now own the bar, which I guess is their concept for the show. Also, Bane is just kicked out of the Legion of Supervillains, so he ends up joining, or Legion of Doom, I should say, and
yeah.
ends up joining the cast.
Yeah, and apparently Lex is hiding the anti-life equation in the bar, in the cooler, and nobody
Right.
knows.
Which
Nobody knows it's there.
even though in theory, if they have a real rush on things one day, they'll go, "Huh? Why is there a briefcase in the bottom of the freezer?"
Yeah, yeah.
But and I would say the greatest sin of this show is that they cast Keith David as Darkseid. It's like,
Oh yeah,
oh, why couldn't we get Keith David Darkseid on a good show?
yeah,
Because for those of you who don't recognize the name right off the bat, he was Goliath in Gargoyles. He was the Arbiter in the Halo series. And if you've watched any sort of Western produced animation for any length of time, you've heard his voice somewhere.
yeah. And he was also the voice of Spawn in the
Oh, right.
HBO Spawn series, animated series from the '90s, and he was also Captain Anderson in the Mass Effect trilogy. Yeah, he's been around for a long time. He was also in some of John Carpenter's movies. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, the guy's a legend. Yeah,
right. And he wasted some of his precious time on this. I hope they gave him a nice check.
yeah, I do too.
But so we've kind of been beating this up just because I kind of feel like it deserves to be beat up. It's hopefully an era of schlock content that we're getting away from in streaming shows.
Mhm.